Hello, everyone. So Jaco, Unleashing Intuition Secrets. We did this several years ago, but we're going to go over the Georgia election anomalies, if you will. We can't say specifically that there was some problems, but we can bring some information like we have done before. Joined today by Tara Jones and David Cross. We did a show several years ago now, I believe it is, where we went into depth about election irregularity. So we're going to do that again. So it's been a while since you guys have been on the show. So you want to introduce yourselves again? We'll start with ladies first.
Okay. Well, I'm Tara Jones, and I ran for school board here in Georgia in 2022. And my election results were quite an anomaly unto themselves, which led me to pursue trying to get a hold of the ballots so that I could actually see physical ballots to see each of the 8 precincts came in at exactly like a 60-30 split. Just as a crazy anomaly. And so I wanted to see the ballots. And through that, I was denied getting to see the ballots. And so I've been kind of working on election integrity, not as much as my friend here, David, who will tell you all the details, but that's what I've been doing and what I did here locally. So anyway, David, you take it away.
Sure. All right. So my name's David Cross. I own a financial planning investment management company. We service people that have we've got clients where in total we manage about $100 million for our clients, and I've worked for the big firms, and as Michael might say, even the big baddies. And before I came to my senses and started my own company 10 years ago. But during the election of 2020, I got very interested in seeing what was happening with the stopping of the counting, and I reached out to a guy named Garland Favorito who runs Voter GA, and he and I have been collaborating ever since. And I've been working with him and several other people that you may or may not know. And through all of this together, we finally got to the point where we're kind of breaking through in Georgia with the state election board, and finally moving the needle. So things are starting to happen, and particularly with what happened in Venezuela with bringing in Maduro. I think it's gonna open up a box. I think it's going to open up a nasty box for people that have been cheating in elections. And I will say this: it's not just Democrats; it's anybody who's willing to pay. Could be Democrats, could be Republicans, could be foreign states. Anybody who wants to have a hand in our elections, we have made it easy for them.
Mm-hmm. Great, guys. Great. Both of you guys are experts in this field, in my opinion. And the last time we did a show, I thought I was very stunned by the information that you guys had. So Joe Biden in the 2020 election won Georgia by a mere 11,779 votes. Now, it took a while to get those numbers, as we know. So there's a little bit of anomaly going on with that. There's also lots of other things that are happening in the news where Georgia admitted that there were like 315,000. I think that's a number, if it is right off the top of my head.
That's right.
Votes that they said, yeah, those don't count because they were like not done right. But if that's the case, then at 11,000. And I'd be willing to bet that almost all of those are, for Joe Biden. I don't know, but I would say that would probably overwhelm, just like President Trump had said, the numbers. And he had gone after Raffensperger, wherever his name is, and asked him, hey, could you look at this and maybe find some votes in my favor because you're a Republican like I am? And they blew him up on that. So let's go back and let's talk a little bit about where you guys came in at with this.
So just one thing I want to make very clear here is that the 315,000 votes that it's kind of blowing up all over the internet right now. One thing I want to make clear is that those votes, they were I think those were, they were, I think they were, I can't say they all were, but I believe that they were lawfully cast votes. We can't go back and undo, what happened in, in 2020. The key thing that we need to understand, though, is that I'm calling those votes and those ballots into question, as are other people, because Fulton County did not sign the tabulator tapes. They had nobody sign any tabulator tapes. In fact, what they did instead was, at the early voting precincts, they took the memory cards out of the machines, took those down to central processing, loaded them into new machines, and printed out the results on those things. All right. Now, there's going to be a lot of critics out there. They're going to say that's just a procedural foul. Okay. But part of the issue is that, if we were playing a baseball game and the Atlanta Braves had 13 errors in one inning, you'd probably scratch your head and say, well, maybe we got a problem. Maybe we have a problem. And that's the issue that we've got with Fulton County, is there are so many procedural errors that if they were just on their own, the one that we've uncovered with all of the unsigned tabulator tapes is enough to put an asterisk by the election results in Georgia for 2020 to say, listen, this is the number that we certified, but we can't guarantee it. And there's no way for Fulton County to replicate anything that happened in 2020. They counted the votes 3 different times. They got 3 different results. In some cases, they injected ballots. In some cases, they forgot ballots. In some cases, they double counted ballots. It's just an it's an unreconcilable mess that happened in Fulton County. And as I said, they've got so many procedural fouls that have happened along the way that any sane person would say, you know what? Maybe we should have the military count the votes. Maybe we should have the military count the votes by hand instead of trusting these yahoos in Fulton County that keep making excuses.
Wow, that's a good summary. I like that. Very good. Very, very nice, David. So yeah, it's almost like they, messed it all up on purpose, perhaps, so that it's like if you throw a lot of tacks in the road, some of them are probably going to get the chase car, and knock it out of whack, and it won't be able to follow. So it's kind of what I see in a lot of these cases. There's a lot of subterfuge here and there, and it's like you just get tired of chasing all of them, and that just wears everybody out, and everybody just says forget it, And it seems like that's what happened with the overall 2020 election. Everybody just got tired of all of it. The recounts just kept coming up the same. And it's like, gosh, what is going on here? And there was no recourse, it seemed like. What are your thoughts, Tara?
Well, yes, I agree that people are kind of shell shocked by continuing to hear, oh yeah, 2020 fraud, and we don't want to hear that. We've moved on. Well, when you understand that what you vote for is not secure, doesn't that concern you? When your voice isn't heard, when people aren't represented, and we are controlled and manipulated, and that these voting machines, Dominion, they can be manipulated. They can be accessed through the internet, through, like David was just talking about, thumb drives. They're not secure. But on top of that, when you ask for paper ballots, I want to see the actual counts. Well, they can't be produced. And one thing to remind everybody about, when Rathesberger sold the state of Georgia, the people of the state of Georgia, this Dominion voting system, it was sold to us as, well, we'll be able to produce the ballots so that anybody can audit the results. Yeah, that didn't happen. That changed. And so when you control everything, and now we can't do a check and balance, which is what all of us do with our checking accounts, right? Don't we want to know what's in there? Well, let me see, I got a deposit here and I'm paying this bill, so I'm going to check that. Well, we can't check anything. We just have to take your word on it. That is like, really? And the whole thing with 2020, when you go back and remind people, everybody in this country watched the count was stalled. Some states didn't turn in the count for several days, but you watched on live TV. Oh, 12,000 votes went from Trump over to Biden, like on live TV. Well, when you're counting ballots and you're counting votes, each number should go up, both sides. We watch numbers go down. When has that ever happened? In real time. And remember, that's when Fox News called Arizona like at 6 o'clock. That was 3 o'clock their time. They called the race. So how many people knew what was going to happen? We can't verify anything. And so how are we supposed to trust Fulton County when they tell us, oh, well, this is the most secure election, and all of the board of commissioners there are standing by their count? It's preposterous for us to accept this. And for some of us like David and I, and yourself, because you've been working with Juan on the 2020, it's not over yet, kind of thing. So we're not giving up on this, because we've got to uncover, and we've got to have a fair judicial system that will allow us to bring forth the proof and the evidence. That's another issue that's been a problem.
So yeah, there's lots of anomalies. I know that Brian Kemp, some people call it conspiracy theory, but it is what it is. Brian Kemp's daughter's boyfriend mysteriously died, and that sends a signal to people that are trying to investigate or trying to push investigations. When people start dying, it makes you back off a little bit.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's real or what, but it's the timing is very concerning. So what are your thoughts on that? And we had talked about earlier about connections all the way back to Venezuela, and let's look at that as well. Talk about that.
Yeah, listen, I'm blown away by the special forces guys that went in there. My understanding is that Maduro had 32 Cuban special forces guys as his personal bodyguards. They were all killed. I think we had a couple of guys that that were hurt, but we didn't have anybody that was was killed. It amazes me at what the cool guys are able to accomplish when you give them a clear objective. My understanding is that
clear objective, and they practice for it.
Said, hey, I think I hear helicopters or something like that. And 3 minutes later, 32 guys were dead, and he was in handcuffs. So my hat's off to to the world's greatest military. It's amazing what they did.
Absolutely. Yeah, and having been in that group, the high level, I can tell you that the level of expertise is definitely at that level, and those guys could move through that group very easily, like they did. And the technology, when I was in that time frame, we were decades and decades ahead of everything else, and I know that's still the same. So that helped a lot in that mission as well. So yeah, Venezuela, obviously part of, even all the way back to Chavez, part of election fraud here in the United States and other countries. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, if you guys recall, and we were talking about this before the show started, there was a press conference with Giuliani and Sidney Powell in 2020 talking about all of the evidence that they were bringing forth. Whistleblowers, people, there is a whistleblower who signed an affidavit stating that he was there with Chavez when this Dominion voting machine system was created, and he watched votes change in real time. He watched everything set up so that Chavez would win the election, and consequently Maduro would win his election. So he knew the night of our election when votes started to flip and things started to be turned off. It's in his affidavit that he knew that that's when the Dominion machines were being used. They were being manipulated. Votes were flipped because he saw it. He saw it in real time with his time with Chavez. He saw how they would take votes and flip them. So 12,000 goes to this candidate, and that really happened. But now we can flip and move the 12,000 over to our candidate. So he knew that was happening. So again, it goes back to, we came forward, people like us came forward and tried to prove that there was issues with this election and had the evidence. And these were the 19 people who were indicted in the state of Georgia. And Giuliani had to pay money. Well, now that this has been admitted that there's problems to the tune of 315,000 ballots in Fulton County alone, where's all of this? Like, shouldn't he get his money back? Shouldn't these indictments be reversed? And shouldn't the people who we have evidence against, shouldn't they be gone after? Well, I think it starts with what just happened in Venezuela. I think that's the key. This is going to be the turning point for people in our country to understand we've got Maduro, and he's going to talk, and he's going to tell you what he knows, or he's going to tell the investigators what he knows if he wants to live, or maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
No, I think he's going to say, "Hey, we just picked up where the old system left off. You know, you guys have been cheating for 50 years." And Michael, I sent you like a 4-minute video that I just found a few days ago that a friend sent over to me. In fact, I think Garland Favorito is actually the person who's circulating it. But it's roughly 2 hours long. I isolated about 4 minutes of it. And this guy's like the OG, election security guy that started investigating things in the early 1970s. And he said, those lever machines where you'd go in and you'd pull a lever and it would punch the card and all that kind of thing. He said they were cheating on those things. So, I mean, I don't know if you, Michael, I don't know if you've ever seen this before. My wife's grandfather, when he passed away, he left an old slot machine, like from the 1920s. Yep. It's got an unbelievable amount of gears and things on the inside. And one of the things that he mentioned when he was showing it to me was like, he's like, "Oh, you can rig this thing, and make it so it never pays out by pressing this little thing over here." And he said, "Nobody will ever know." He said, they'll just get like little payouts. Nobody ever get the jackpot. And so mechanical devices, they cheated. All right. The digital devices we have right now, they're cheating. All right. The system that we have in Georgia, the Dominion system that is now Liberty Vote, all right, it just slapped a new name on it. They put new lipstick on the pig.
Right.
Right. It was actually originally selected after an exhaustive 9-day search by Brian Kemp, our governor, who everybody thinks is a Republican. And people here need to understand, Brian Kemp is for Brian Kemp. He doesn't give a damn about anybody else, all right? Much less any Republicans that are out there. What he cares about is himself, his legacy, and the money that falls off the table. When he's working with other candidates, and it could be in the form of business deals, it could be money that comes off the table, from somebody like from his daughter, being a candidate, working for a candidate as their fundraiser, because if you're the fundraiser, you get 10% of the take, and if daddy donates $100 million, daughter's going to get like $10 million, just going to fall off the table.
Wow.
The other thing we have to understand too is that I'll go back with what Tara said. The day after the election in 2020, Raffensperger went on television on the Today Show and said, "We had 4.7 million people cast ballots in Georgia. It was a record. It was amazing. 4.7 million." All right. A week or so later, Georgia certified 5 million votes, 4,980 some odd thousand to be exact. But it went up by roughly 280,000 votes. That doesn't sound like much, but it's 6%. Nobody knows where they came from. And in fact, in Fulton County on election day, there was an emergency meeting by the Fulton County Board of Elections, and it was to certify a precinct that had not previously been certified. So they were just doing some last minute little catch up stuff. But this meeting is at 6:30, and there's a guy named Dwight Brower that was helping run things, and he comes on and he gives an update about the leak that happened, down at State Farm. They got that all cleaned up. And the other thing he said too is he said, as of about 5 p.m., in Fulton County, we've had 14,152 people that voted. And one of the election board people, kind of quizzically says, "Can you repeat that number?" And he says, "Yes, 14,152. Right? She says, "Okay." And then another election board member comes up and says, "I'm not sure I'm hearing this right. It's not coming through clear. What's the number?" 14,152. Right? Fulton County certified. But I think they said they had it's either 57 or 59,000 people that voted that day, which means that roughly 37,000 people rushed to the polls between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Polls closed, and yet all of the newscasters that were out there that were reporting on the big rush that was going to happen for people to vote, they were all saying that there's nobody voting. There's nobody out here. So we have so many questions about what's happened. And again, this is, maybe it's a procedural foul. I don't know, but it's just another item that doesn't make sense and doesn't add up. And the naysayers out there will just say, "Well, you just don't know what you're talking about," or maybe he was dealing with old data. And I'm like, if he was dealing with old data, then why are we calling it a state-of-the-art brand new system? It's just, there's just too many things that don't add up and don't make sense.
So
Agreed.
also, didn't those Dominion voting machines come from China?
Yes. Every single one of them. The components were made in China. And there's a couple of my friends that have done some forensic work on the software, and they found not only do they find footprints from Belgrade, Serbia, because that's where Dominion moved their people from Venezuela. They moved their operations team over to Belgrade, Serbia, and the footprints show that people came in remotely on these systems that are not connected to the internet. So we just keep having problems like this that everybody, the Fulton County, everybody else wants to just sweep under the rug, and they're real. It's legitimate, and they're finally coming out.
And this was, they went ahead and bought them even after Texas told them don't do it because they can be compromised.
That's exactly right. And the other thing most people have no idea about, Michael, is that prior to Georgia signing up to use the Dominion system statewide, the Dominion system had never been used on any statewide election system. It had been used in municipalities and small elections and city elections and things like that in some municipalities in the United States as well as Canada. And what's really kind of funny is that the tabulator tapes that people are supposed to sign off on and say, "I swear," they're signing off on a little paragraph that says, "I swear that I saw that, the votes count," all that kind of thing. But the verbiage that they're swearing to says that that they are swearing and attesting to the election code of Canada, because nobody ever bothered to fix the tabulator tape so that when it prints out here, it's actually according to Georgia laws and Georgia code, not Canadian.
Wow.
Wouldn't that negate any count then? I mean,
again, the naysayers are going to say it's a technicality, it's just a procedural foul, but it's like, again, here we are in the 7th inning and you've got 13 errors. So
right?
Tell me nothing's wrong.
Yeah, and that's 2020. There's some other elections too that we talked about, Michael, on a show that we did where Herschel Walker was in a runoff with Warnock, and we talked about how, and Georgia is a red state, and so you see all the like it's Republican. Here's Herschel and Warnock's race. Oh, all of us that are Republican are going to go click Warnock, vote like Republican, Democrat, Republican. No, we're not doing that. And Herschel Walker lost that race. Like, no, we don't do that. Like, you're going to vote for your party, right? So yeah, there was a smear campaign against Herschel. There was a smear campaign against Warnock. I mean, listen, we all know, no one's perfect that runs these races. We get it. We're all human, but that wouldn't make a bunch of Republicans go, yeah, I want to vote for this Democrat. It's not happening.
Well,
So there
and
was
Tara, one thing that happened there too was when Herschel was running, that was an opportunity for our governor to step up and help endorse and help push him across the state. And Kemp vanished like a fart in the wind. He was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, the only person that was supporting him was Trump.
Correct.
And then after the election, you had the two senators, Republican senators that had to compete, and they both lost. So there's like some crazy stuff going on. Loeffler, was it Loeffler?
Kelly Loeffler.
Loeffler, yeah.
Yep. Don't forget, she has a painting of Mao Zedong in her entry foyer. Just saying.
And you would think because of that, she would have won.
I'm confused. I don't know.
I know, right?
Let's not forget too, there was a DeKalb County race that David knows all the details about too. But if I remember correctly, there was a candidate who came in third place, and she was contesting the results. She was a Democrat, but in her precinct, she got 0 votes. And that's what clued her into, wait a minute, this is my husband and myself voted for me, so I should have at least 2 votes.
Right.
And when they did the recount on her election, she went from third to she won. What was her name? It was Michelle
Long Spears.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anybody can look it up.
Had she just accepted the results, you won.
Like
you win.
Women that were in the arena when they had the leak, and then they had them on camera, like pulling out the boxes after everybody was gone and running the ballots over and over and over again.
Right.
And you remember their names, and they got presidential citations.
Right.
Yeah, Ruby Freeman and her daughter.
Shay Moss. They got the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Wow.
Now, I'm just wondering, was that on an auto pen? I mean, I'm just asking if that was maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I haven't looked, but it's pretty easy to see like which documents were signed with an auto pen, because his signature, on the auto pen documents does not match anything even remotely close to what he used to sign.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you guys want me to play that one video?
Yeah. I'd love to show that. So this is a guy named James Collier, and it's again he wrote a book, and hopefully this is going to play right. So go ahead and hit play. Let's see what happens with this thing.
James Collier, welcome to the show.
I had the pleasure to be here tonight in the snow. Thanks for coming.
And James, what prompted you to write this book?
Well, the book, Vote Scam, The Stealing of America, it's been a 25-year investigation into how elections are rigged in the United States. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to take umbrage at that. Elections rigged, because it's our birthright. The birthright of this country is the vote.
Absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, the biggest export of the United States is the vote. We won the Cold War over what? The vote. Spoke at every church breakfast and did what you're supposed to do. And so on election night, September 7th, 1970, or September 3rd, 1970, at 3 minutes after the poll closed, the CBS affiliate down there called perfect vote percentages for 250 candidates. Well, you can't do anything in 3 minutes. And all of the citizens of Dade County totally asleep, don't care. No one thought about it. We were.
Oh crap!
The stand-up lever machines, where you open the back of the machine and you read the numbers off.
We have it.
You have it, Connecticut, right?
Absolutely.
And so they shipped all those machines out of town to Marion, South Carolina, or North Carolina, I forgot which that is. And they retrofitted them so that the counters now had raised wheels, raised counters. Instead of flat, it's stuck through so that your 3-digit number was raised like an ink pad. And they put a piece of paper in there called the Print-O-Matic. And that's what you have here now. So this was the pilot project in 1973 in Dade County to test this little system up. And what they said was, we're going to take the keys away from all the precinct captains so you can no longer open the back of the machine and look at the numbers with your eyes to certify the zeros in the morning and at night certify the numbers on it. Instead, you're going to crank a handle and there's going to be a roller that goes across this piece of paper. And then you're going to crank it and the piece of paper is going to come out and it's going to have the zeros on it in the morning. And then at night you crank it again and they're going to have the numbers for the final election. So instead of eyeballing it now, you got to trust this magic little piece of paper in the gumball machine. So the first time they used it, it jammed. And about 600 precincts, 4,000 precinct workers walked off the job that day because when they opened the backs, because it jammed, they sent troubleshooters there. The roller hadn't gone all the way across. It wrinkled up the paper. But when they opened it up, there were numbers, zeros in the morning, and the final numbers at night were already in the machine. And that's why 4,000 people quit right there on the spot. Miami Herald story saying there was a big snafu, but they put firemen and policemen on take their place, but never said why.
They can both see me, mate. The whole world can see me if you come in.
Safest where we can safeguard our vote.
I was going to hold that to the end because everybody said, what are we going to I'll tell you now because we'll get to the end anyway. All the major democracies of the world use paper ballots. Israel, India, 270 million voters, Great Britain. Nobody is as dumb and gullible and as asleep as the United States citizens.
So there you have it, gullible and asleep. And and here's the thing, Michael, I don't want people to think that I think that they're gullible and asleep. I'm a child of the 70s. I'm one of four kids. All right. When I was a kid, my dad was a home builder. His business was up, his business was down. My mom had to, work a job to help put food on the table and take care of four kids. And, in that era, we were exporting jobs to China. Again, in the 80s and the 90s, and it just made it so that people really didn't have time for civic interaction. They were splitting their time between the family and their work and that kind of thing, and they just trusted their government to not screw them, and their government screwed them over and over and over.
Yeah, and continue to. I mean, go ahead, Mike. You were going to say something.
Yeah, that's one of those things that it's hard for people to grasp that because like you said, you trust so much. I mean, probably all of us have been in relationships where someone cheated on us. You trust them, and then you find out, and maybe you hear about it or you suspect, and you're like, no, it can't be. And then you find out later on that they were cheating on you big time, and it's hard. It's really hard. You want to just like walk away from it and carry on with life. That's
you don't want to believe it.
Yeah, don't want to believe it. And then when you do find out, you just want to bury it and just move on and not even bring it up to the surface to anyone. So that's the way our elections are. They're heavily compromised. We've been cheated, heavily cheated on, and everyone's like, oh no, I can't believe it. But we got to, so we can move on and correct it.
Yeah. And Michael, I want everybody to understand too, when I started doing the investigations, I thought we're going to figure out how the dirty Democrats rigged the election. What we found out is that there's about 14 different vectors to influence or rig an election. Some of them are visible, some of them are invisible, but you cannot tell any of them unless you can get your hands on the ballots, on the original paper ballots. Because in the time that it takes for you to scan your ballot in, technology existed 8 years ago that would make it so that in 20 milliseconds, that means if you took 1 second, if this was 1 second, and you divide it up into 1,000 pieces, in 20 milliseconds, like this much, you could flip the vote on, even if it's handwritten, you could flip the vote before it saves the image. And then when you and I go back, to the state and say, hey, I want the ballot images, it's worthless because you're getting whatever was pre-programmed into those things. And we're now at the point where, Dominion has got, I think, 27 or 30 different hand marks that makes it look like a human being touched that ballot.
Wow.
So that the average person who's looking at it, you're not going to know that's a computer that did that unless you've looked at thousands of these things. And there's a guy on Twitter, his name is mad_liberals. He is the most amazing person I've ever seen. That he was a fingerprint expert, and he applied those skills to looking at ballots, and he's looked at millions of ballots to the point where I can say, hey, Philip, I want you to isolate a 1 inch by 1 inch square on this ballot, and I want you to see if you can run it through your machine and tell me, can it find that same pixel somewhere else? And he'll find it. His system will absolutely find it.
Wow.
This is all private citizens doing this. The government's not funding any of this.
No. Well, and do you remember, like, on the ballots, when you go to turn it in, there's a QR code, right?
Yep.
So when you try to, like, see what, anything, you scan a QR code, it comes up, right? Yeah. How about the QR codes on the ballot?
Well, the QR codes on the ballots, that's what the scanner actually reads. It doesn't read, the names or the dot that's next to somebody's name. It's reading the QR code as a shortcut. And we busted the QR code and made it so that we can reconcile it back to what is actually reported as the vote. And it does reconcile. So I'm not terribly concerned about the QR codes, at least as they exist right now. But honestly, what I want to see is a hand-marked, human-counted paper ballot, the same way that they do it in civilized nations. Just like that guy said on the video, he came to the same conclusion 30-something years ago.
Wow.
And he said, this is the biggest democracies out there. They use human-counted, hand-marked paper ballots. So, hey, my wife just got here. She brought my charger for me so that it wouldn't crash for me. So I want y'all to say hello to the election widow. This is my wife, Sean.
There she is.
Hey.
Nice to see you again. It's been a while. Hi. I don't want anything dying while you're doing production here. So
Thank you so much.
record.
That's good.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But,
This is for the nation. You're doing a good job.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one, guys. Hi, Darren.
Thanks.
Hi. But on top of, like, to add to David's point, so there's countries out there who have paper ballots and they get counted in 1 day and the election gets certified. Because a lot of these naysayers are like, oh, there's no way we could count paper ballots all day long and we'd never get the totals. Well, in 2020, we didn't get totals for days. So paper would have been much easier, right? So paper ballots with the military is really the only way that you can certify that. But there are other countries that do that. And then I want to just add one other thing we were talking about trusting the government and all of that. Well, how did that work out for the people of Minnesota?
Good point.
Yeah.
I mean, and now Tim Walz isn't going to run for re-election. Gee, I wonder why. I mean, all the money, how much money is really going to be uncovered of taxpayer dollars that's been funded to people who are like, if you've got Somalians who are unemployed in Minnesota, do they need daycare? If you're staying at home, do you need daycare? And how are these daycares with no children getting all this money?
Yeah,
they're Muslim too, and they have up to 4 wives with children, and they each have their own homes that are supplied by the government. And imagine that being multiplied by thousands. So this is how deep this goes. We're not looking at 8 billion. We're looking at more like 80 to 90 billion over the last several years of the Somali fraud.
Absolutely, and it's not just in Minnesota.
Yeah,
it's in every state. Really. I mean, so you can't trust your government. And it's been there's been whistleblowers who have come forward, like Nick Shirley. Like, he's had people come to him and say, hey, I brought this to the governor. I brought this to the state board. Ignored.
Right.
I wonder why.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
I think every chance you get to, I can't use a curse word on here. I don't want to do that. Poop post. How about that? On Twitter or something like that. Every chance you get, play the Don Henley song, "Dirty Laundry." These have become like our theme song for politicians out there, because we're getting to the point right now where there are super sleuths that are out there. They will find your dirty laundry and they will air it out for everybody to hear it. So the best thing to do is be honest, have honest elections, let the people count it. We've got high definition cameras everywhere. I would feel safe having Martians count my vote, as long as it's on a high definition camera and I can see the ballots, in the replay. Fine by me. There's so many naysayers out there that go, oh, no, you don't want to have human beings counted because that's how they rigged things before. Well, you know what? That was 80 years ago. And 80 years ago, they didn't have high definition telephones, or high definition cameras everywhere. We've got the technology to make things secure, and we could do it at 1/10 of the cost, just like President Trump says, using human beings and paper ballots.
Well, we tried that, I think, in the last election. And you might remember, I think it was Michigan, where they were pushing out Republican poll watchers. They made them leave. So unbelievable. And then they had, people videoing, and they came up and put cardboard over the windows.
Right.
So it has to be a military. I've heard that President Trump is, through an executive order, is going to push out the military for the election to prevent fraud coming up. So if that happens, then we'll get good merit-based people that will finally start to reach the offices, and give us good justice and so forth. Remember that one woman judge? I can't remember the state, but she, had the illegal immigrant, and she used her chambers to, get him out. She just resigned. So we're seeing, like you're talking about, that got blown up all over the internet, and everybody's like, and shame on you. And then she just resigned. So we're starting to make an impact. That's just one. We have thousands. So we got a lot of work to do. But you're absolutely right, David. It's citizen journalists like that 23-year-old that got involved that makes a difference.
Right.
Yeah, Nick Shirley.
Yep.
Is his name.
Yeah, we need to highlight his name, Nick Shirley. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, he put a post out there that Trump retweeted, and he said, "I ended Tim Walz."
That's
And he said, now the media, the regular, mainstream media is all up in arms about what he did, instead of being up in arms about all the fraud that he uncovered. They weren't up in arms about what he discovered. No, they're up in arms because just a 23-year-old with a camera discovered this stuff. And now they're, what do you guys do? Oh, you read from a script that's given to you at 5 a.m. We know. Just saying.
And going back to that graft and theft and fraud and all that kind of stuff, there's proposal to send all these illegal immigrants or people that have committed fraud back to Somalia, wherever they came from. I'm like, hello, they need to pay that fraud back. Either they do it, physically, give the money back, or they do it in prison. So no, they don't get a free pass to go back home after committing these crimes. Hello, stop that. So I think we need to watch that. So that's more of rhino work, basically protecting the people that have done this fraud. I don't agree with that at all.
No, and remember, you just did a show like a couple of days ago talking about the case of, was it Medicaid fraud in the state of Minnesota, that the husband and wife were found guilty unanimously by a jury, and then a judge, West, I think is her name, was the one that overruled their ruling. I'm like, what is happening here? Was it on a technicality? Really? Well, I don't know why she overruled it, but when you have a jury who has a unanimous, based on, and the foreman of that jury came out and said, we had all the evidence in front of us. It was clear they were guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I
she
believe that
turns it, and now they don't have to pay any money.
I believe there's portions of our government, particularly the judiciary in Georgia, that are captured. I don't know
100%.
who they're captured by. Sometimes they're controlled by the governor. I believe they're controlled by the governor, and in some cases, I believe they're captured by by foreign governments. And even with the case right now, we're trying to see those damn ballots, from 2020, and we got standing in the case in December of 2022, and then we still have not seen the ballots. I've heard of the justice system moving slow. The cogs of justice move slow and that kind of thing, but they're moving slower than the speed of smell, and we got to speed things up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Well, to your point, foreign governments, I mean, how many deals is kept done with China for our port in Savannah? I mean, there's pictures of them over there in China. And yeah, I understand foreign trade, but to what extent?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember going to bed. When Trump, his first term, I voted, or not voted, but I bet. There's like online betting you can do. And I made a ton of money because I was like, he's going to win. And I was like, I don't know about this, not the last one, but the 2020. I was like, I don't know. Something doesn't smell right. But, at late that night, he was all stacked up. I'm like, it's a done deal. And I bet it was like, I still had good odds. I'm like, that's easy money. So I bet, and I went to bed. Yep. And I woke up and I didn't have any money from that anymore. So good thing I put a lot of money into it. But how crazy that was. They backed up trucks in the middle of the night and unloaded ballots. It's like, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh,
They
doesn't
stopped,
sound like it at all, does it?
backed up the trucks, and then started, getting these mail-in ballots that weren't properly registered or signatured or anything.
And that happened in multiple places too, not just Georgia. I remember there's a postal worker in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That he came forward and said, well, there was a switcheroo on his truck and for the ballots, and he had to go through New York. But yeah, he came forward. There were so many people that came forward and said, hey, we don't, there's some weird stuff going on here. And in fact, David, what was the name of the movie that you had, the clip, you had the library camera that got in the movie from, isn't it Burnett that?
Yeah, it's 2,000 Mules.
Oh, 2,000 Mules. Yeah. I mean, how about that?
Yeah.
Where in that movie, it shows you the number of people in the middle of the night going and dropping off ballots at 2 a.m. And there's a stack of them, for mail-in ballots. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So that movie was
one of the really interesting things that happened. So a friend of mine named Brian Pritchard, he had a podcast up until December 20, I think middle of December. He cut it off, and I think he's going to go on to do some different things. But he did an interview with Brad Raffensperger, I believe I want to say March of 22 or so. I have to look it up to be exact. But anyway, Gabriel Sterling and all the naysayers are out there going, no ballots in Georgia were counted twice. There's no such thing as a double scan, double counted ballot, much less a triple counted ballot. And on Brian Pritchard's show, Raffensperger said, yeah, we had some problems and we had some double scan, double counted votes. But it wasn't enough to move the election. So there's always that caveat. But he came right out and said it. And I'll tell you what, Raffensperger is running for governor of Georgia right now.
Oh my God.
The balls on this guy is amazing. But I've got some friend, a guy named Bob Couvert up in North Georgia. He has Raffensperger dead to rights, with I think it's like 24 lies that he told the Congress. And the more that I've gone in to look at this, what I have found is that the Department of Justice is interested, in these lies and this documentation. But when I went back to look and see how many people have ever been prosecuted for lying to Congress, you know what the number is?
0.
0. You can go lie to Congress. You get away with it.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Makes you feel good, right? And don't forget that
I feel like we live in this upside down, backwards world where what's supposed to happen is whatever they want to have happen. You know, your
that's
fate
absolutely
is
what does happen.
determined.
Here's you know, one of the you know, Newsweek, Georgia official
Oh my
response.
gosh, we made Newsweek.
1,000 ballots not properly signed in 2020. Now, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has said a clerical error in the state does not erase valid legal votes. Responding to renewed scrutiny of Georgia's 2020 election results, which former President Donald Trump has repeatedly, of course, this is Newsweek, which has attacked me as well, and falsely was stolen from him. And then further down here, basically, President Trump goes on to say, you know, we told you that it was a stolen election. Here it is. I can't find it. Where is it? It's a little bit further down, I guess. So Donald Trump said in December 19th post, so what we all knew back in 2020, what we all stated out loud, and everyone in the media, the establishment, and the Washington, D.C. machine lied about, ended up being 100% true. I'm so shocked. Yet another conspiracy theory proven right. Now, of course, we have to continue to play along with the game because here we are in a social media platform that will restrict me if I don't say. But, you know, there are people that say that, you know, it was a good, fair election. And so we have to, you know, that's good. And then we're countering that with maybe there's some issues here. So, you know, put that caveat in there so we can continue to, you know, have this video shared. What are your thoughts? You know, what are your last thoughts on this, Tara?
I think, you know, we've talked about it many times. We have to go to paper ballots, same day voting. Yep. And you can't mail in unless you are like in the military. If you're overseas and you want to vote, then that's a valid mail-in ballot. If you're handicapped and you can't get out to vote, absolutely. If you're in the hospital for whatever reason and you can't vote, you know, but you want to share your vote, then mail-in ballot. But otherwise, go to the poll. I mean, they have early voting, and we have but we also need to, I think we need to diminish the amount of time we do that as well, because obviously if you cast your vote early enough, if we didn't have the machines, then that would be fine. But if we still had machines, when you know what the vote is ahead of time, then you know how much you need to program to counteract that. But I think we have to have same day voting and military count on paper ballots. That's what I think corrects this.
Yep. David.
Yeah, I think so. I'm all about human counted, hand marked paper ballots. Do it so the media can shoot it with a camera and show it. You know, I just don't believe. I don't believe that all of these procedural errors that we're pointing out lead to nothing. I mean, I really love what Joe Rogan has got this one phrase that I love, where he talks about, you know, is there cheating in elections? And he'll be talking to one of the naysayers that says, oh, no, it's all safe and secure. And I love the phrase he always uses. He always says, but it's not zero. It's not zero, is it? And so that's where we are. And we can move back, you know, to perfection. But the thing is that rigged elections and riggable elections, they don't serve the people. They are job security for crooked politicians and for foreign states that want to be able to control what's happening in our states. You know, there's so many of our states that have business deals with other countries. Do you know that more Korean people live in Duluth, Georgia, where I'm at right now, than any other place on earth except for Seoul, South Korea?
Wow.
More than any other place. All right. And we are giving away water rights all over the state to all these people that want to have data centers and they want to build cars and they want to build batteries. And here's the truth of the matter. Hyundai Motors built a battery and car plant here in Georgia because they needed access to fresh water. 4 million gallons of water per day right now. They could not build that plant in South Korea because they don't have access to water. And our politicians are giving it away, maybe because they're influenced, by South Korea. I don't know. All I can tell you is that we need to return the sovereignty of our elections to our people and take it away from machines, because when you're counting ballots in a secret room with cardboard up, it's the same thing as counting them with software. Software can totally rig it. Elon Musk said it best. I mean, he said, I'm a technologist. I'm totally against having machines count ballots. If the wealthiest and smartest technologist, on planet Earth says that, we should be listening.
Right. And also, let's not forget, with the outcome of the 2020 election, and then COVID came along. Just think about, to David's point, so if the politicians are the ones that benefit, then the citizens are the ones who don't benefit. And how many people took the jab, okay, and lost their jobs if they didn't take the jab, right? And so they lost their pension. People got kicked out of the military. People died alone because of that whole situation. Family members were separated. You had people trying to have Christmas with plastic on them. It was the insanity that happened. You have to wear a mask to go shopping. I wore one on my wrist to get in that, but that's just me. But there were repercussions that we all faced because of that election, let alone the economy and what happened to the price of eggs and the price of milk and all of the things. And then, let's not forget Afghanistan and how much it goes on. And who suffers? We did.
Very good. I'm glad you brought up Afghanistan because, as you guys know, I worked for the CIA protecting high-level people while they did their missions. But one of the guys in Afghanistan, he was the chief of station, really, really good guy, former Marine. So we hit it off really well. He confided in me because I was concerned. I was like, democracy has its limits, because the rule by majority type thing, if you have mostly, Islamist, which we had in Afghanistan at the time, radicals, they're going to vote for their guy. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Now you guys might remember, because I see people in there talking about the thumb, having the thumbprint.
Mm-hmm.
So they were doing that in Afghanistan. And so I was asking him, and he's like, what about Karzai? Is he going to win? He's like, don't worry. I was like, okay. So with that in mind, we have to have military, that's going to cover this voting, guys. And we need to have the military come in early so that everybody gets re-registered. We can't have these illegal aliens in this democracy by numbers, right? It's destroying our country. So you have to have voters that are legal residents of the United States. And then you have the military watching over it. So there's no hanky-panky going on. And I think we're going to have good elections if that happens.
Right. You've got people that have worked on that too, about the voter rolls, like Seth Ketchel. He's worked on voter rolls and proving that there's 600 people that live at this address. Really? And it's an abandoned lot. Wow. Okay. But to get there registered, yeah, go with it. That's fine. Sure. I think you're right. We definitely have to start afresh. I think you and Juan have talked about that. It's going to be, is it going to be a pain? Yeah, but it's worth it to have what didn't happen to us the last 4 years, and from 2020 to 2024 and all the things that we experienced, just like, local level, state level, national level, international level. When you do it right, it's worth it, because then our vote counts everybody's vote counts the right way. And if a Democrat wins, then a Democrat wins. If a Republican wins, then a Republican wins. But you know who wins? The American people.
Right. Yep. Very good. Great show, guys. Fantastic. I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about this. This is a, touchy subject, I guess, for some people, but I think for most Americans, regardless of your political persuasion, you want to have fair and accurate voting. So like you said, Tara, if Democrats win, the Democrats win. But if it's by fair elections, I have no problem with that. I never had a problem with that in the past. I grew up in a family of Democrats, so I love Democrats. But I don't like the what's obvious. Well, I can't say obvious, but what seems to be some irregularities in the voting that seems to lean towards a certain party more than others. So we need to clean it up.
Absolutely.
Michael, I appreciate you being one of the folks that stands out there and reports on this, because I don't think very much of the media is trustworthy. And I will tell you this: as big as this story was, from the December 9th state election board meeting, that was just one of my complaints. They've got a dozen more that are just as bad that are going to be coming up, I believe, in February. I think that the January docket is already full, but I believe we're going to be talking about some more things that are just as bad in February, and it's going to be ugly. So stay tuned.
Thank you, David. That's good. Good heads up on that. I appreciate that. And thanks both of you for coming in. And who knows, maybe we'll have to do another show here, in the near future to see where this is all going. So I appreciate it. And, for the audience, there is hope out there. We just keep the conversation going. I think we can make some impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on.